Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good evening. It is Saturday night, December the 8th, and it's 10 o'clock p.m. here in Calgary, Alberta. I'm a few minutes late. Sorry about that. Had a little bit of trouble getting into Skype and on my show here. And, glad to be here. This is Speaking Out Against Child Abuse, and, it's a serious issue. You know, like, I talk a lot about this, as everybody knows. I've done over 900 shows here, and about 5 or 6 on another show at one point. And, you know, I just thought, hey, I've got a voice. I can use it. You know, I can speak out against child abuse. I can speak out against all human rights abuses. And mainly I'm talking about child abuse because children just have no way of protecting themselves. And it's a serious issue. And like I said, you could just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. And I appreciate everybody who's tuned into my shows. I went back and was looking at some of the stats on the site, and it's like 48,000 shows listened to, almost 49,000 shows listened to, and I've done shows since November 2009, and I had no idea how long I'd be doing this or how long I'd be able to continue to keep talking, and or how many people would be tuning in, and I just appreciate everybody who's taken the time to listen to what I have to say. Like I go on and on about the same thing all the time. And a lot of it, is relatively the same issue. It's all talking about hard-level issues, the hard stuff, and my stuff is really shocking, and I don't sugarcoat it and minimize it and talk about my day and all of this stuff, and, went grocery shopping and things like this, because that's not really what I want to spend a half an hour talking about. I've only got a half an hour to do this show, and so I like to make as big of an impact as I can, speaking out about what is very, very serious, sitting on my heart all the time. And I mean, I wish I was 4 or 5 people, and I wish I had the dollars, and I wish I had 240 hours a day to work on this stuff. I really don't. And I'm just one person. I have no money, and but I have a voice. And so I figure, hey, why not? Why not use it? I only have so much time during the day to do this kind of stuff. I mean, because I got to work full time and stuff, and on the weekends I got to try to rest and get all my other stuff done. Right now I'm doing laundry, but it just sits on my heart, because I know that unless we all start doing something, unless we all start speaking out against this stuff and getting involved, and it doesn't even necessarily mean donating to groups and organizations that are doing good work, just getting involved and watching out for the kids in your own neighborhood, starting a neighborhood watch, a neighborhood link watch where parents meet up to discuss the issues of child abuse and protecting children, child abuse prevention. And this sort of thing does go on in certain neighborhoods, but lots don't have this kind of thing. And it's so important within churches, within schools, within neighborhoods, within communities, to get involved and do something. But I talk about quite a bit about the stuff going on up here where I live, and there isn't a whole lot going on. The only thing that you see out here in the public media is the homes for children who have been battered and abused. Oh, well, good. Okay, we'll put them up. We'll shelter them after they've been wounded and beaten, and their hearts have been ripped out of their chest. You know what I mean? Like, rip their lives apart. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and say, oh, it's okay. Rip their little lives apart, but we'll just provide a home for them after we have to remove them from their abusers. Like, this is just pathetic, and it's just so incredibly, incredibly wrong. It's all wrong. And they do need to provide those homes, but they need to do more on the prevention side. And there is nothing being done up here except for a couple of groups, Little Warriors out of Edmonton. They're one of the only groups that I see doing anything at all to make any noise at all. And Darkness to Light Stewards of Children. Those guys are at least somewhat visible. If you're looking around and you happen to be just typing on the internet, child abuse prevention in your area, I can actually find those guys here by just searching and looking for them quite easily. There's nothing else happening. Absolutely nothing. And, I mean, there's just little programs. Red Cross has got a program, which is an awesome program. It's a wonderful program. But it doesn't reach the communities. It doesn't reach your average person on the street. It doesn't reach the average parent who doesn't know how serious it is that they protect their children, you know, from predators, from child sexual predators, from internet predators, from school authorities, people that they're going to come in contact with. I mean, where does child abuse happen? I mean, I talk about this all the time. It happens where the child is. Who's around the child? Well, people that have access to that child. So that's why generally, I mean, let's say the 98% is all generally child knows. I mean, they say it's more like, what, 95% or something. 95%, you know, it's not stranger danger. It is someone who has access to the child, right? And so I just think that more people need to get busy, including myself, and start organizations that don't require money to run on, that it is educational, to help promote this issue that, you know what, child abuse is happening, whether we want to admit it or not, whether we want to talk about it or not. So many people, like, at least down in the States, it's not a hush-hush thing, but up here in Canada, it's very hush-hush. Nobody wants to talk about it. They don't want to know about it. It's like, oh, no, let's all shove our heads in the sand. You know, let's all just bury our heads in the sand so that we don't have to think about this. It's too awful to think about. You know what's too awful to think about? What these kids are experiencing right now. They're having to go through this. They're having to deal with being abused, and they're going to have to think about that for the rest of their life. I can't go to the bathroom without thinking about being abused. There's nothing I can do during the day where I don't think about being abused, because everything is a trigger for me. Because I was abused for years, year after year after year, in every situation. So it's all a trigger for me. You know, I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. The society just wants to bury their heads and say, oh, it's just too horrible to think about. Well, yeah, it is. It's horrible to think about. It's horrible to know. That's what's horrible. It's horrible to experience it and to have to live with the aftermath of it, you know. And so, I mean, it's great that we have homes and group homes and therapists and whatnot who will work with children who have been abused. Thank God for those people, and, you know, for people that support those people. But why don't we just stop child abuse? Why don't we just be more proactive on the prevention side? Because I don't think we should wait till a child's been abused to help them. I mean, that's pathetic. You know, that's absolutely pathetic. It's such a joke. It's not even funny. You know, it's like, you got to be kidding me. That's how our society feels about this? Oh, well, nothing we can do. Just let the child be abused, and then we'll just try to pick up the pieces later. You know, like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And the billions of dollars that's going into this thing in North America alone isn't really making an impact. Children are still suffering. The children that we don't know about, they're the ones that don't make the headlines. You know? They're the ones that are going to drag themselves through life somehow, some way. I know a lot of those people. You know, and try to continue on. Those are the ones that we don't hear about. And those are the millions upon millions on this earth of people who have survived and actually made it through and lived through child abuse and haven't killed themselves. Right? So this has got to change. I mean, it really does. I wanted to talk tonight about a couple of books. You know, the reason why I bring them up is because a couple of my poems are in them, and it's such an honor to be published in this book with so many other survivors of abuse. And one of the first book that we put out was called Silent No More. It's a collection of works by reaching survivors of sexual abuse, RSOSA, and founded by Kate Swift out of the UK. And it's Chipmunk Publishing, the mental health publisher. It's published by them. This was the first one that we did, and it was a great opportunity to be part of something that was so huge. You know, it was like over 80 people involved, 80 survivors of abuse involved in putting this book out. And everybody, it's their pain, their experiences of being abused, and it's called Silent No More. And the reason why we titled it that was because we're silent no more. We're not going to be silent anymore. We're not going to be shoved in the closet and gagged and bound and gagged and made to shut up. You know, no, we've been abused. We're going to speak out, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to trust survivors to realize that, you know what, you are not alone, and the shame is not yours. Shame does not belong to you. What was done to us never should have happened. And the second book, we did a second one just recently called Growing Stronger, Growing Free, The Journey of Recovery from Childhood Sexual Abuse and the Hope for Healing. A second collection of works by reaching survivors of sexual abuse, RSOSA, founded by Kate Swift. And this is again put out by Chipmunk Publishing, the mental health publisher. And this was our book of healing poetry and writings and artwork and whatnot from most of the same 80 people or more involved in this project. And so this is a big project in the UK. I can't get there. I'm in Canada. I can't afford to go, to be part of this. But I was humbly and thankful to be able to have one of my poems put in there, one of my writings, and part of the group. So it's awesome. It's an awesome thing because I hope that these books will help people to understand more about what abuse does to and what it does to children and what they will have to go through, and that there is hope and that there is help. You have to keep looking for it. You have to keep going, right? So I'm going to read some stuff, and I'm going to read my stuff. I'm not going to read anybody else's stuff because I don't have permission. I haven't. This was just something I wanted to do tonight, so I'm just going to read my poetry tonight. But this is a great opportunity. I wish people would pick up these books. It's all going to charity. None of us are making any money off of these. It's all going to charity to stop child abuse, stop child sexual abuse mainly. And I hope that people will pick up a copy and pass it around. Submit it to your local library. These are great books. But everything that I do, really everything that I do on Blog Talk Radio and anywhere where I'm speaking publicly, you should listen at your own discretion and realize that I'm talking about abuse. I'm talking about the reality and the horror, the reality, the real stuff about abuse, So you have to listen at your own discretion to all of my stuff. I have discretionary warnings on anything that I'm talking about child abuse and abuse. And be careful what you're listening to. If you think that what I'm talking about might trigger you, then you do need to turn off the show. It is your discretion. You have to know what's good for you to listen to, right? And I say that on almost all of my shows that deal with abuse topics, right? And so this is a poem that I wrote, and this is something this is my reality. This is what I lived through, and I survived. And it's haunted me every day of my life. It's not something I can just forget about. And so I decided to write about it and break free from the prison of being bound and gagged, right? So my poem is called Bound and Gagged. Scratching, clawing, pushing, punching, darkness, sobbing, choking, blackness, gasping, shaking, bound, gagged, hands, fingers, head, mouth, body, where they should not be, overpowering me, drowning, swallowed into darkness. 8 years old, why is this happening to me? 13 years later, the gynecologist tells me, you're no virgin, honey. It's stolen from me. Cannot let anyone touch me. Bound, gagged. I wrote that poem a while back and a few years ago, and when I wrote it, it just came out. Like I didn't even think about it. I just wrote it, and it's the truth. It's reality. I went to my first checkup, and at the age of 22, because I was going to get on the pill, because I had met this guy that I really loved and cared for, and we were seriously thinking about getting married and having this major relationship for the first time in my lifetime. Before that, I would never let a guy touch me because I was raped and sodomized and sexually abused as a child by my brother, sibling incest, and he was 13 years older than me. He was 21. I was 8, and this was violent sexual assault. This was not a game or something that he contrived that would be fun, like so many abusers do, sexual abusers. This was a violent sexual assault, and I was tied up and gagged and raped and sodomized. And this went on for probably about 7 months. At least 7 months. It was under a year, but it was close to a year. And to me, it seemed like a lifetime of hell. And I really thought I was going to die. And I could have from the infection that ensued afterwards. And my mother absolutely did nothing to help me. She knew about it because I told her. And I told her even knowing that my brother had threatened to seriously hurt me if I did tell. But I told anyway because I was in a lot of pain. I was having some serious problems and infection and was really sick. And my mom was like, "What do you want me to do about it? It's not my problem, you deal with it." So she told me to wrap myself up like a mummy when I went to sleep at night. That was her answer. She did not care that my brother was sexually abusing me. So I wrote this poem because that's where I was for so many years, bound and gagged. And even though I wasn't gagged anymore and I wasn't tied up anymore, I was still bound and gagged. And I couldn't let anybody touch me, and I couldn't let anybody in, and I couldn't let anybody get too close. And even today, my relationships are very much like that. This has left a lifetime scar that will never go away. And only people that show me that they're trustworthy will I let into my life that close. And they have to prove it. Because I've just been burned too many times, right? Just like everybody else, but my stuff is pretty severe. So I have, I'm working on that. But the hope is, that we can do this. We can make it. And I have so many examples in front of me. Lindsay Tolson, Elizabeth Brawley, and there's so many more. Those are two that come to mind because they really impacted me in the first beginning part of my healing journey. And they made a huge difference in my life just by watching and learning from them what they did and what they went through, being abused and the horrors of being abused, and that there they were helping other people. And I thought, I want to be like that. I want to make it. It gave me a purpose, to say, I want to do this. I want to heal, and I want to be able to help people. I want to be on that end of it, because that's such a beautiful thing. Right? It's an awesome thing to be able to help somebody, I wrote another poem, Growing Stronger, Growing Free, in this new book that we just put out. It's called My Victory. You chose your weapons, leaving me no shield, no protection, no safety, a prisoner in your lair. It was your fancy and your delight to watch me cower and tremble, not able to fight. You waged war and brutality against me, a small child. Bruised, battered, bloodied, you chanted your victory shout, believing you had won the battle. Over time, you fell. Death, insanity, madness overtook you, and your frame returned to dust. A small wounded child grew amongst the thorns. She learned along the path from teachers wise and true, taught her to learn to love herself, taught her to love others. They planted a spark of light within that grew as time moved on. Today, that small girl is grown and stands tall. She faced her demons, faced her death, and learned to love and live. That's one I just wrote not too long ago, actually. And, it's so true. I had a lot of people that influenced me as especially young teenager, right around 12 years old, 13 years old. Some friends of mine, their parents were very influential in my actually being here today. Because had they not, they probably didn't even know at the time that they were saying the right thing. And what's really funny is at the time I didn't even know they were saying the right thing. I didn't, I appreciated their help, and I appreciated the fact that they cared about me more than my own family did. And I appreciated the fact that their hearts were so torn because of what I was going through, and they cared. And I thought, that the first time I actually realized that, wow, somebody cares, And what they said to me didn't over through 14, 15, 16 years old, I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to die. And I didn't care if I died. I did a lot of drugs right around that age, 15, 16, 17 years old. I did a lot of drugs. And I used to be so high. And I didn't care if I did too many drugs and died, right? Because I was in so much pain that it didn't matter to me. Because I felt like I was dead already when I was 10 years old. I really realized that I was dead spiritually. And these people, what they had said was tucked away somewhere back in somewhere back in my mind, somewhere back in my thoughts, somewhere back in my heart. And I didn't think about it for a long time, but after, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, by the time I hit 22, I decided that I wanted to live and keep trying to live. I still had suicidal ideation. I was still thinking about committing suicide, and even when I went to the Grand Canyon and lived there for a year, I was thinking that I could kill myself, and I was thinking, what a great way to be able to do it, because there's no way anybody could stop you going over the edge. You're gone. So, I mean, these are the things that would go through my mind. I was still wanting out of the pain, but something was fighting as well to stay alive. And my brother had killed himself when I was 21, which is kind of bizarre because he was 21 when he had raped me and sexually abused me, and I was 8, so he's 13 years older than me. And 13 years later, he killed himself. So I was 21, and he would have been 13 years older. So I was 20, so I was just turning 21. So he was 33, and it's just kind of weird. But I realized I was heading down the same road, that I was going to either die of a drug overdose or I was going to kill myself. And I thought, I want to live. I want to do what normal people do. I just want to have like a normal life. I had never done anything normal. I didn't go to prom. I went to a couple of high school things. Very rarely went to things like that because I didn't have the money to go. My mom and dad wouldn't give me the money to go, and then they would just call me names and beat me up, calling me a slut and a whore if I wanted to go. I didn't even ask to go, right? So I hung around doing drugs in my neighborhood. That's what I did. And I did that for a long time. And after so many years of doing that and just being so high and so wasted all the time, my body was starting to feel the effects of that. And I knew after some car accidents and stuff that, I was just going to die if I didn't change my lifestyle. And something inside was saying, you know what, you have to do this. And as I was doing that, as I was doing the work to try to get off the drugs and to straighten up my life, really wasn't sobering up. I wasn't really a drinker, I was just a drug user. But, becoming straight, right? And my mind, in the back of my mind, these thoughts of these people would come. And I actually went to visit these same parents that had told me all this stuff and really cared about me when I was young. And like I had talked about on some of my shows here and even on Spreaker, because I'm on Spreaker talking over there too if anybody's interested, that, these people they cared more about my personal well-being than my parents did. And so, these people would like me into their home. This was, my parents knew about this. My mom didn't care if I was alive or dead and didn't care where I was and said, well, she didn't care if I stayed with them. So I stayed with them for I'd say over a year, off and on for about 2 or 3 weeks at a time, just to get away from my mom, get out of the house for a while, right? And they would it's just normal. I'd go to school. Like I heard their daughter was a little bit older than me, but we were in the same school, and we'd just do like the normal stuff. They were so kind and so cool to me. I went to visit them at the age of 22, I think it was. And I was starting to turn my life around. And I remember when I saw them again for the first time after a few years. I hadn't seen them since I was about 16 because they moved away. Or 15. It was 15. So I hung around with them for about 3 years, 12 to 15. That the words that they, when I was younger, really came to the front of my thinking. I was like, wow, yeah, that's right. They had told me, that I had to learn to love myself and to learn to not hate and to not allow my past to destroy me. This is the kind of stuff that they would talk to me about, that God loved me and that it wasn't my fault and that, I needed to make sure that I, get help and not allow this stuff to kill me, it's just amazing what people can do. So those were those wise and wise teachers, there were always some voices out there talking to me throughout my childhood and throughout my youth and teens and into my 20s, wise teachers, I call them, who cared enough to look into the situation and actually offer some words of hope and some words of help, And I didn't think at the time that it would matter, but it really did. It obviously did, because now when I think about it, it's really what kept me alive. It kept me from killing myself. And because somebody love, you know, like somebody who didn't even have to on this planet showed me love, like real love, like a parental love, like what real parental love should be like. They weren't even my parents. And, you know, that's what I contribute to saving my life. You know, I had a lot of help from friends, you know, friends over the years who have made all the difference. You know, I have help now from people in my life who are so dear to me, you know, that are there for me no matter what. And that's, you know, that's a love that you never forget, you know. So there is hope, you know, and I hope that people will realize, you know, like if you've been abused or if you're having a hard time and you're struggling, you know, there is hope. Do not ever give up. You know, 2 of my brothers killed themselves. They could not see it. They could not see any goodness. They couldn't see anything like that. They couldn't see it. They didn't look for it. They didn't keep reaching out for it. It's work. It takes real effort to keep going, you know, and they couldn't do it. So they killed themselves. And it's, you know, that's sad. That's really sad. I know other people that have killed themselves too through the years, you know, and committed suicide because of issues from their past and issues in their life that they feel that there's no hope. And, you know, that's really sad because there is. And you just have to keep going each day by day and keep looking for it. And there may seem like, you know, times that you can't find it, you know, and you keep trying and you keep trying. Well, then you just keep trying. You know, and you just keep going. I mean, I talk about this a lot because I wrote about it in my book, Life of Death and Redemption. But, you know, 5 years ago, I was sitting on the couch ready to kill myself, self-injured. I was thinking, this is it. I've got to do it because I can't do this anymore. You know, I can't live like this anymore. I can't have this pain in my heart anymore. It was killing me. And 5 years ago, I put down the screwdriver and I said, no, I am not going to let them win this battle. The victory is mine. And so that's my poem, My Victory. It's my victory. And I hope that you will remain and you will have your victory too. Do not allow yourself to be destroyed by your past or by abusers or by abuse, right? You make sure that you get whatever help it is that you need, and you keep fighting for it, and you keep fighting for it until you get it. Do not give up, my friends. Have a great weekend and a great night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.